The world was silent when the first clan awoke. Rallan opened his eyes to the pale glow of a strange sky. He lay on smooth stone, inside a half-buried chamber that smelled of dust and old air. His chest rose with a shuddering breath, the first he had taken in centuries. Around him, others stirred, men, women, and children, their eyes blinking at the light of a world they did not yet know. The chamber walls curved high, lined with glass tubes that now stood empty. Each tube had once held a sleeper of the clan. Now they were open, their long silence broken. The people stepped carefully onto the stone floor, shivering as they tried to remember who they were. Rallan stood taller than most. His dark hair hung loose, his voice steady even in confusion. "We are awake," he said. His words carried across the chamber, giving strength to those who still trembled. The time has come. No one remembered the journey that brought them here. They only knew the words that lived in their hearts, words passed through dream-like memory during the long sleep. "You are the first clan. You must endure." Mara, the keen-eyed scout, was among the first to walk toward the chamber's open gate. Beyond it, sunlight poured in, warm and golden. She placed her hand on the frame and looked out, her breath catching. "Come," she whispered, though her voice carried urgency. The others followed, Rallan at the front. Together, they stepped into the world. The land stretched wide before them. Forests rose like towers of green and silver, their leaves glimmering as though touched by starlight. Rivers of strange glow ran through the valleys, bending and shifting as if alive. The air smelled sweet but heavy with unknown promise. Birds with crystal wings darted across the sky, leaving faint trails of light as they vanished into the clouds. The clan stood in silence, overwhelmed by the beauty and strangeness of the place. "This is our home," Rallan said at last. "Our ancestors placed us here. Whatever waits in this land, we must face it together." Children pressed close to their parents, while the strong carried those who were weak from the long sleep. They began walking, their footsteps marking the first trail of the first clan on this world. As they moved deeper into the forest, Mara noticed how the trees seemed to lean toward them. The bark shivered, as if the trunks were alive in ways she did not understand. She kept her hand on her spear, a simple weapon carved from stone, her eyes scanning every shadow. By nightfall, the clan found an open clearing. They gathered wood from fallen branches and built a fire. The flames danced high, sending sparks into the sky. Around it, they sat together, speaking in hushed voices. "We were not left here to wander," said Rallan. "We were left with purpose. The world may test us, but we are stronger together. Fire will keep the dark away tonight, and tomorrow we will seek food and water." An elder named Darren nodded slowly. His hair was white, his voice deep and calm. "I feel this land watches us," he said. "We must walk with care. Fire may not be enough." The younger ones shivered, but Rallan's steady gaze held them firm. "If the land watches, let it see we do not fear. Let it see we are the first clan." That night, sleep came lightly. Mara sat awake near the fire, her spear resting across her knees. She thought she heard faint sounds beyond the clearing, branches moving when no wind blew, soft whispers in the grass. The glow of the rivers in the distance pulsed like a heartbeat. She kept her eyes sharp until dawn broke. When morning came, the clan rose to new tasks. They drank from a clear stream, though its waters shimmered with strange light. They gathered fruits and roots, testing each carefully. The children laughed when they found berries that glowed faint blue, their sweetness filling empty stomachs. Yet not all was joy. Near the stream, Rallan found marks in the soil, deep clawed tracks, larger than any hand. The earth itself was torn as if by something heavy. He traced the lines with his fingers, his jaw tightening. "We are not alone here," he said. Mara looked to the trees, her sharp eyes narrowing. "Then we must learn faster than the world can test us." The clan worked together, building small shelters from branches and woven leaves. Fire burned again that night, and the people sang old songs that had somehow survived their long sleep. The songs spoke of stars, of journeys beyond the sky, of hope carried from one age to another. Rallan stood at the edge of the firelight, looking out into the dark forest. The trees swayed as if listening. The rivers shifted their glow. He felt the weight of his role heavy upon his shoulders, yet he did not bend. "The first clan will not fall," he whispered. "We will endure." The flames crackled, the forest listened, and the world waited. The second dawn on the new world began with silence. The fire from the night before had burned down to ash, and mist hung low over the clearing. The first clan stirred awake, stretching sore muscles and shaking away dreams filled with shifting trees and whispering shadows. Rallan rose early, his eyes scanning the edge of the forest. The claw marks he had found the day before still weighed heavily on his mind. The world was beautiful, but beauty often hid danger. He placed a hand on the hilt of his stone blade and called for Mara. She came quickly, sharp-eyed as always, her spear slung across her back. "The forest moved again last night," she said without waiting for his question. "I watched the branches bend as if the trees were reaching toward us. No wind carried them. It was the land itself." Rallan nodded slowly. "Then we must learn to understand it. Fear alone will not keep us alive." The clan gathered for their first true day of survival. Groups were sent out, some to hunt, others to gather fruit, and a few to scout the river banks. Rallan and Mara led the scouts into the forest, their footsteps soft upon the moss-covered ground. The forest stretched endlessly, its canopy high above, where shafts of golden light pierced through the green. Yet with every step, the feeling grew stronger. The wild was not still. It was aware. Rallan paused when a branch shifted ahead of them. The tree seemed to bend slightly toward him, its bark rippling like the surface of water. He raised his hand, touching it with caution. The wood was warm, as if alive with breath. Mara frowned. "It knows we are here. This is no ordinary land." Deeper into the forest, the scouts came upon tracks once more. This time they were clearer, three-toed prints sunk deep into the soil, surrounded by broken ferns and claw marks on the nearby trunks. The tracks circled around, as though the creature had stalked them in the night. One of the younger scouts whispered, "It follows us." Rallan knelt by the prints, his jaw tight. "Then let it follow. But it will know we are not prey." They returned to the clearing by midday with little food but many warnings. The others had gathered fruits and small game, yet unease filled the air. Stories of moving branches and shifting rivers spread quickly among the clan. Even the children noticed the strangeness, pointing at trees that leaned closer when no one touched them. That evening, as fire once more lit the clearing, the clan debated. "This world rejects us," said Darren, the elder. His deep voice carried worry. "The rivers change their path, the trees bend toward us, the soil hides creatures. I fear we are not welcome here." Rallan shook his head firmly. "We are alive because we are meant to be here. Our ancestors chose this land for us. If it resists us, then we must prove our worth." Mara spoke next, her voice sharp. "The wild does not strike openly. It watches. That is its strength. We must not wait to be hunted. We must learn its ways, or we will vanish." The clan fell silent at her words. The fire popped, and shadows of the trees stretched long into the clearing. Each person felt the weight of unseen eyes beyond the firelight. That night, Rallan did not sleep. He walked the edge of the camp, his blade ready, his ears sharp. Several times he swore he heard soft movement just beyond the glow of the flames, the snap of a twig, the brush of leaves, the hush of grass bending under weight. Yet when he turned, nothing stood there. Only the forest, tall and still, yet never truly quiet. By morning, unease had grown. The clan ate in silence, their eyes darting often toward the trees. Children who had once laughed at glowing berries now sat close to their parents, holding tight to their arms. The wild was pressing in, and all could feel it. Rallan made a choice. He gathered the clan around the fire and lifted his voice so that even the youngest could hear. This world may watch us, but we are the first clan. We are not shadows. We are not prey. Today we will build stronger shelters. Today we will set watch at every hour. And if the wild comes for us, we will show it our fire. The clan answered with a murmur of courage. Fear still lingered in their hearts, but Rallan's words lit a spark. Together, they cut branches, wove walls of leaves, and stacked stones to form the beginnings of stronger huts. Spears were sharpened, and torches made ready. As the sun fell, Mara climbed a rise near the clearing. From there she could see the forest stretching far and endless. She watched the rivers glowing in the distance, shifting in curves that seemed to slither like serpents. She felt the weight of the wild's eyes, patient and waiting. Her grip tightened on her spear. "If you watch us," she whispered to the forest, "then know this. We will not run." Below her, the clan gathered again by firelight, their voices rising in song. Though the wild pressed in from all sides, the first clan stood together, their courage burning as bright as the flames. The wild listened. The wild waited. And the test was only beginning. The third night on the new world began with unease. The fire burned bright in the center of the clearing, yet shadows pressed close at the edge of the forest. The first clan huddled together, speaking little. Their shelters of wood and leaves stood ready, but fear lingered in every heart. Rallan walked the perimeter with Mara at his side. Both carried spears, their eyes never leaving the dark between the trees. The silence of the forest was heavier than before, broken only by the crackle of fire. Suddenly, a sound tore through the night. It was a deep, grinding roar, like stone splitting under great weight. The children clutched their parents. The firelight flickered as the roar echoed again, closer this time. "Ready your weapons," Rallan commanded. His voice was calm but firm. "The wild has come." From the darkness emerged a beast unlike any they had ever seen. Its body was covered in jagged plates that looked like stone, its limbs thick and powerful. Its eyes glowed faintly as it stepped into the clearing, each footfall shaking the ground. The claws on its front limbs were long and sharp, tearing at the soil as it advanced. The clan gasped in fear, but Rallan raised his spear high. "Stand together. Fire and steel are our strength." The beast roared again and charged. The ground trembled under its weight. The first clan scattered, some pulling children back to safety while the hunters rushed forward. Mara leapt to the front, thrusting her spear at the beast's side. The point scraped against the stone-like plates, sparks flying, but did not pierce through. "It is armored," she shouted. Rallan moved quickly, circling toward the creature's flank. "Strike for the gaps," he called. "The wild has no weakness but what we find." The beast swung one heavy limb, striking the earth where Mara had stood a moment before. She rolled aside, her breath sharp. The force of the blow shattered branches and sent dirt flying. Hunters thrust their spears from different sides, forcing the creature to turn again and again. It snarled, snapping its jagged teeth, its glowing eyes filled with fury. Rallan charged from behind, driving his spear into a gap near the creature's neck. The point sank slightly, drawing a dark liquid that hissed as it struck the ground. The beast roared in pain, rearing back. The clan shouted with new courage. "Strike! Strike now!" Together, they rushed forward. Spears pierced into joints, under the plates, into the soft parts the armor did not cover. The beast thrashed wildly, slamming its tail and claws into the ground. One shelter collapsed under the impact, scattering leaves and branches, but no lives were lost. Mara climbed onto a fallen trunk and leapt, driving her spear deep into the creature's shoulder. The stone plates cracked under the force, and the beast staggered. Fire! Rallan cried. Bring the fire! The clan moved quickly, lifting burning branches from the central blaze. They thrust the flames toward the beast, the light and heat forcing it back. The creature roared in rage, its armored hide glimmering in the fire's reflection. With a final cry, Rallan and Mara drove their spears together into the wounded side. The beast shuddered, gave one last terrible roar, and collapsed with a heavy crash that shook the earth. Silence followed. The fire crackled, the forest stood still, and the beast lay motionless. The clan stood frozen, their chests heaving with the weight of battle. Then slowly, voices rose. At first it was whispers of relief, then shouts of triumph. Children laughed nervously, clinging to their parents, while the hunters raised their weapons high. Rallan pulled his spear free, his hands stained with the dark liquid of the creature. He looked around at his people, his voice steady but strong. Tonight we have faced the wild, and we still stand. Let this fire burn brighter than fear. We are the first clan. The clan cheered, their voices echoing into the night. They dragged the beast's body away from the camp, leaving it at the edge of the forest as a warning to whatever else watched them. The fire in the clearing was fed higher, flames leaping toward the stars. Later, when the noise had quieted, Mara sat by the fire, her eyes still sharp. She spoke softly to Rallan. It will not end here. The wild tested us tonight, and we answered. But it will test us again. Rallan nodded, staring into the flames. Then we will be ready. The wild may be strong, but so are we. Our strength is not only in spears and fire. It is in unity. As long as we stand together, we will endure. The clan listened, drawing comfort from his words. They sang again that night, louder than before, their voices rising above the forest. The song carried courage, hope, and defiance. Far beyond the clearing, hidden in the darkness, unseen shapes moved between the trees. Eyes glimmered faintly, watching. The wild had taken its first strike, but it had learned something new. The first clan would not break easily. And so the fire burned into the night, a beacon against the shadows, the first true mark of the clan's will to survive. The days after the battle with the beast were filled with both pride and unease. The first clan had stood against a creature of stone and claw and had won. Yet victory did not bring peace. The forest was quiet, but it was not the quiet of safety. It was the quiet of watching. Rallan knew it each morning when he woke to find claw marks on the far side of the clearing, or branches fallen in patterns too strange to be chance. The wild was not finished. It tested, learned, and waited. Still, the clan worked with steady hands, gathering food, building stronger shelters, and keeping the fire alive. One morning, Mara returned from a scouting path with news that stirred every heart. She had found something hidden among the trees, something made not by nature but by hands. It is old, she said. Stone carved by our kind, though weathered by time. Come, you must see it. Rallan led a group of hunters and elders with her. Together they followed a narrow trail deep into the forest. The air grew cooler as the trees thickened, their trunks rising high like pillars. The light dimmed, and the sound of the glowing rivers echoed faintly. At last they came to a clearing where moss-covered stones rose in great circles. Broken pillars leaned at angles, their surfaces etched with lines and shapes. Though worn, the carvings were clear enough to be understood. The clan gathered around in awe. These were not the marks of beasts or the wild. They were the marks of people. Rallan brushed his hand across one of the carvings. It showed figures of humanoids standing beside towering trees. Their arms were raised not in war but in greeting. Another carving showed rivers bending like serpents, with figures walking calmly upon their banks. This place tells a story, said Darren, the elder. His voice carried a weight of memory. Our kind once lived here, long before us. They walked with the wild, not against it. Mara traced another image with her fingers. This one showed fire-consuming trees, and the figures of humanoids standing over the flames with weapons raised. Above them, carved shapes of beasts with claws and wings struck down upon the figures. The stone had cracked across this image, as though the carving itself had been broken in anger. The story changes, Mara said. There was peace once, but it was broken. The wild turned against them. The clan stood in silence, each person feeling the meaning settle into their hearts. Perhaps the wild does not hate us without cause, said one of the hunters softly. Perhaps it remembers what was done long ago. Rallan clenched his fist. Whether the past was filled with peace or betrayal, we are here now. We cannot change what came before. We can only decide how we stand today. Yet the carvings weighed on his thoughts. If the world remembered, then the first clan was not simply fighting for survival. They were facing the memory of broken trust. The clan spent the day studying the ruins. Children traced the carvings with their small hands, while the elders debated their meaning. Some believed it was a warning never to rise against the wild. Others believed it was a call to strength, to prove that the clan would not fall like those before. As the sun set, they lit torches and began their walk back to camp. The forest seemed alive with whispers. Leaves rustled without wind, and the ground seemed to thrum beneath their feet. When they reached the clearing, the fire was stoked high, and the clan gathered close around it. That night, Darren raised his voice to tell the story of what they had seen. He called it the Song of Stone and Root, for it was a song written not with sound but with carvings upon stone, and rooted deep in the earth. He spoke of a time when people and the wild lived as one, of rivers that carried voices and trees that bent in welcome. Then he told of the fire, of betrayal, of a bond broken. His words wove into the crackling of the flames, painting the story for all who listened. The clan sat in silence, their faces lit by firelight. Even the youngest children understood. They were not the first to walk this land. Others had come before, and they had failed. When Darren finished, Rallan stood. His eyes swept across his people, seeing both fear and strength in their faces. If the wild remembers betrayal, then let it also remember courage. We are the first clan of this age, and we will not be broken. The past does not bind us. We will make our own path. The clan raised their voices in agreement, their shout carrying into the night. Yet as the fire burned, Mara sat quietly, her gaze fixed on the dark forest. She thought of the carvings, of hands that had once built stone and fire in harmony with the land. She wondered if peace could be found again, or if the wild would never forgive. The flames danced high, shadows swaying across the clearing. The clan sang their old songs once more, their voices strong, but the forest listened in silence. Somewhere beyond the trees, the memory of Stone and Root waited, its story unfinished. The discovery of the ruins had left the clan restless. Each night, when the fire burned low, they whispered about the carvings, about the people who had once lived here, about the broken pact between the wild and those who came before. Some believed the wild would never forgive. Others believed it could be healed. Rallan knew that whispers alone would not guide them. They needed truth, not shadows of memory. So when Mara came to him with news of a place beyond the forest, he listened with great care. I found a waterfall unlike any I have ever seen, she said. Its water does not fall like clear streams. It glows with silver mist. The air around it hums like a song. I believe it is important. I believe it holds answers. Rallan agreed to lead a group there. At dawn, a band of hunters, elders, and children set out with him and Mara at the front. They followed the glowing river deeper into the wilderness. The trees grew taller, their branches arching high like a living ceiling. Birds with bright feathers called from above, and strange insects glimmered in the air. After hours of walking, they heard the sound. It was not the simple rush of falling water. It was a low, steady hum, like voices woven into the river's song. The sound grew louder as they climbed a ridge of stone. At the top, they saw it. The waterfall tumbled down from a cliff, but the water did not shine like ordinary rivers. It fell in sheets of silver mist, glowing softly in the dim light. Where the mist touched the rocks below, the stone gleamed as though polished by time. The air itself shimmered, filling their lungs with a strange sweetness. The clan stood in silence, humbled by the sight. "It is beautiful," whispered one of the children. Mara stepped forward, her eyes wide. "This is no simple water. It is alive." They called the place the Tears of the First Clan. For though none knew why it had formed, they felt in their hearts that it belonged to them, as if their ancestors had left it behind as a gift or a warning. Rallan approached the pool at the base of the falls. He knelt, cupped his hands, and lifted the glowing water to his lips. It was cool, but not like ordinary water. As it slid down his throat, his vision blurred. The world around him spun, and then he saw. He saw figures of old, the ones from the carvings. They stood in harmony with the wild, speaking with trees and rivers, singing songs with birds and beasts. For a moment, all was peace. But then fire rose, weapons struck, and the pact was broken. The wild, wounded and betrayed, rose against them. Storms tore through forests, beasts crushed villages, rivers swept away homes. The people were scattered, their voices silenced, their pact forgotten. Rallan gasped and fell back. The clan rushed to him, but he raised his hand. "I am well," he said, though his voice trembled. "The water shows truth." One by one, others drank. Each saw visions, each felt the weight of the past. Some wept, others trembled, but all understood. The tears of the waterfall were not just water. They were memory, left behind by those who came before. Darren, the elder, was last to drink. When he opened his eyes, his face was lined with sorrow. "Now we know," he said. "The wild does not fight us without reason. It remembers betrayal. We are paying for the mistakes of our own kind." The clan sat together at the base of the falls. Children leaned against their parents, hunters laid down their spears, and even Rallan sat in silence. The truth pressed on them heavily. Mara broke the quiet. "If the wild remembers betrayal, then we must give it reason to remember trust. We cannot walk the same path as those before us. We must choose differently." "But how do we change what the wild already believes?" asked one of the hunters. "It sees us as it saw them. It will not care for our words." Rallan rose slowly. "Then we will show it with our deeds. We will endure its tests, not with cruelty, but with courage. We will not strike unless forced. And if we must fight, we will fight to live, not to rule. In this way, we will prove we are not the same." The clan murmured agreement, though their hearts were heavy. The visions had shaken them, but also bound them tighter together. They had seen the failure of those who came before. They would not repeat it. As the sun set, the silver mist of the waterfall glowed brighter. The clan camped nearby that night, the hum of the falls singing them to sleep. For the first time since awakening, they felt the presence of their ancestors not as distant shadows but as voices guiding them forward. Yet even as they rested, the wild stirred. Beyond the trees, storms brewed, and creatures with eyes of fire prowled the dark. The world had given them truth, but truth was never without cost. The tears of the first clan had shown them the past. Now the future would demand its price. The silver mist of the tears still lingered in their minds when the clan returned to their clearing. Each face carried the memory of the visions. They now knew the truth of the broken pact, and though it weighed on them, it also gave them resolve. But the wild had not finished its trials. On the first night back, clouds gathered. The stars vanished, and the air grew heavy. The fire burned low as the wind hissed through the forest. Mara sat upright with her spear in hand. "It comes," she whispered. Then the storm struck. The ground shook as roots tore from the soil, twisting upward like serpents. They lashed against the shelters, pulling them apart. Trees bent and swayed, their branches striking like whips. The wind howled through the clearing, and rain fell in heavy sheets. It was not just weather. It was the wild itself, rising in fury. "Hold together!" Rallen's voice cut through the chaos. He seized a fallen branch, its tip aflame, and raised it high. "Fire! Keep the fire alive!" The clan rushed to protect the blaze at the center of the clearing. Some shielded the children with their bodies, while others grabbed torches to drive back the twisting roots. Sparks flew as wood clashed against bark, as if the forest itself fought to smother the flame. A massive root burst from the ground before Mara. She thrust her spear into it, splitting its bark, and it recoiled with a shudder like a living beast. "They strike like claws," she cried. Rallen charged to her side, his blade hacking at the roots. The dark liquid within sprayed across the ground, and the root writhed before sinking back into the earth. All around them, the wild pressed harder. Shapes moved between the trees, beasts with glowing eyes, their bodies half hidden in the storm. They did not attack fully, but circled like hunters, waiting for weakness. Fear threatened to break the clan, but Rallen shouted above the storm. "We do not bend. We are not shadows. We are the first clan, and we endure." His words lit fire in their hearts. The hunters formed a ring around the fire, spears raised. Mara leapt across fallen branches, striking again and again. Darren, the elder, held torches high, chanting old words that gave strength to weary arms. Even the children carried smaller flames, their eyes fierce with courage. Together they fought not just beasts, not just storm, but the will of the world itself. At last, the wild unleashed its fury in full. A creature of root and stone rose from the earth, towering above the clan. Its body was twisted with branches, its eyes glowing like embers. With one swing of its limb, it struck down the last standing shelter, splintering it into fragments. The clan faltered, but Rallen stood before the monster, his blade raised. "You will not take us," he roared. He charged, his strike cutting deep into the creature's chest where roots knotted together. The beast bellowed, but Mara was already beside him. She thrust her spear into the wound, and others followed, driving their weapons into every gap. Flames were hurled against its body, smoke rising as fire spread across the twisted bark. The monster staggered, its roar shaking the trees. But the clan pressed harder, their unity stronger than its might. With one final cry, it collapsed, breaking apart into ash and splintered wood. The storm began to calm. The roots sank back into the soil. The beasts at the edge of the forest faded into the shadows. Only the sound of rain remained, gentle now, washing the clearing clean. The clan stood gasping, their weapons blackened, their bodies weary. Their shelters lay in ruins, yet the fire still burned. The flame had never gone out. Slowly, voices rose. First in relief, then in pride. The first clan had faced the fury of the wild and survived. Rallen raised his blade high, his voice steady though his body trembled. "The wild has tested us. We did not fall. Remember this night. Remember our fire. We are not prey. We are the first clan." Cheers rang out, strong and unbroken. The children smiled through tears, the hunters lifted their spears, and even the elders' weary eyes shone with pride. When dawn came, the clearing was broken, but the clan was whole. They began to rebuild with hands made stronger by trial. Where fear once lay heavy, now there was a spark of defiance. Mara stood at the edge of the forest, watching the mist rise between the trees. She knew the wild would test them again. Perhaps tomorrow, perhaps in years. But she also knew this truth: the wild had seen their strength. It had seen their unity. And it would never forget. The clearing was quiet after the storm. Broken shelters lay scattered across the ground, branches and roots still smoldering where fire had touched them. The clan stood among the ruins, weary but unbroken. Their eyes were red from smoke and rain, yet their spirits burned brighter than the flames that had carried them through the night. Rallan looked upon his people. They were tired, wounded, and cold, but they stood tall. The fire still burned in the center of the clearing, its light flickering against their faces. It was proof that they had endured. For a time, silence held them. Then Darren, the elder, spoke. His voice was low, heavy with meaning. The wild struck with all its fury. Yet we remain. I believe it has seen us now. I believe it knows who we are. Mara, standing with her spear in hand, nodded. We fought as one. That is our strength. The wild may test us again, but it cannot deny that we are here. We belong. The clan murmured agreement. Some wept softly, not from fear but from pride. They had faced storms and monsters, yet none had broken them. As dawn's light spread across the forest, the mist lifted, glowing with silver edges. From that mist, a sound rose, not the roar of beasts, not the hiss of branches, but a deep, steady voice that seemed to come from the land itself. The clan froze, listening. The voice was not one tongue, but many. It was the hum of rivers, the whisper of leaves, the rumble of stone. Together, they formed words. You have faced my storms. You have fought my beasts. You have burned my roots. Yet still you stand. Why? The fire crackled, the air heavy with silence. Then Rallan stepped forward, his voice steady. Because we are the first clan. We do not seek to rule you. We seek only to live. Our ancestors broke trust, but we will not. We fight only to endure, never to conquer. The voice of the wild rumbled through the clearing. Long ago, your kind sang with me. Then they chose fire over song. They turned against the bond, and I turned against them. Why should I believe you are different? Mara stepped beside Rallan, her eyes fierce. Because we have seen what became of them. The tears of the first clan showed us. We will not walk their path. We will make our own. If you watch us, then see the truth in our deeds, not only in old memory. The wild was silent for a long moment. The trees stilled, the rivers hushed, even the birds held their song. Then the voice spoke again. Unity is your strength. You stand as one against fear. This I have seen. Then hear me. I will not strike you down, but I will not shield you. The world will test you, as it tests all who live. If you endure with honor, then the bond may return. If you fall to pride, then you will be broken like those before. The clan listened, their hearts heavy but hopeful. Rallan bowed his head, not in weakness, but in respect. Then we accept. Test us as you must. We will endure, and we will prove worthy of this land. The mist swirled once more, glowing brighter before fading into the trees. The voice of the wild was gone, but its weight lingered. The clan stood in silence, knowing they had been heard. That day, they began to rebuild with new purpose. Their shelters rose again, stronger than before. The fire burned higher, no longer only for warmth, but as a sign of their will. Children carried stones to strengthen walls, hunters wove branches into tighter roofs, and elders taught songs of courage so no heart would forget. At night, the clan gathered around the flame. Darren lifted his voice in a new song, one not from memory, but born from their struggle. It was a song of storm and fire, of root and stone, of courage and unity. The clan sang with him, their voices strong, filling the clearing with hope. Mara watched the forest as they sang. The trees still swayed, the rivers still glowed, but now they seemed less like threats and more like watchers, listening quietly. She felt the bond was not yet healed, but it had begun. Rallan stood beside her, his eyes on the flames. "We are no longer only survivors," he said. "We are part of this world. And one day, it will see us not as intruders, but as kin." The clan cheered at his words. Their voices rose above the night, above the forest, above the silence of the wild. They were not shadows. They were not forgotten. They were the first clan, and they had forged the beginning of a new pact. The fire burned on, a beacon against the dark, a promise to the world itself that they would endure. And for the first time since awakening, the wild did not roar in anger. It listened.